Okay. So, Soul here. I was listening to this video. My new, new favorite YouTuber, Robert Jefferson, also known as the Comics Explained YouTuber, creator. And he was talking about a memory with some of his high school friends. And I couldn't help but reminisce on my own high school experience. And, well, just my experience overall growing up in more innocent times. And I realized that even though I knew a lot of people and I was willing to open up to a lot of people and be honest, and to a certain degree, I wasn't as closed off as some of the people I knew growing up in high school and things like that. But I did notice in my memory, I was kind of a liar. But not in the sense that I would just go around and if someone would ask me a question, I would intentionally tell them the wrong answer. More just about my own story, because I wanted to be as fun, or I wanted to seem like I was as fun and as interesting as my friends in high school. Because basically they all had good stories about, whether it was like fights or like more friendly kind of encounters of some kind that they had. And I didn't really have any of those stories. I mean, I never really had to get into a whole lot of fights. I never really had to I never really thought it was necessary to just pick a fight every now and then to just keep my skills up. I didn't like hurting people like that. I didn't enjoy just messing with people, But I didn't look down on it, because obviously I told stories that weren't true about myself, where I was the guy that just every now and then just would mess with somebody or something like that, so I could feel like I was a part of the group, a part of the, so I could feel like I fit in. And as I was listening to this video and acquainting myself with one of my, Robert's stories, I was thinking back to a kind of unique thing with me, that once I got to college, I saw a shift of sorts in the way that I acted. I started becoming more of that interesting, fun, mess with people every now and then just to get, a laugh for myself and my friends type of person. And now, none of it was with malice intent, right? I've just always not been, I don't get doing things with malice intent. But I started to get a glimpse of the truth behind when people say, well, I didn't mean to hurt you when I hurt you. It was easier in college for me to understand somebody when they said things like, boys will be boys. Because there's an undeniable albeit small, amount of rascal-ity in all of us. All of us have a little bit of crazy, a little bit of rascal, a little bit of liar, a little bit of manipulator inside of us. And it's not to be shunned, hated, shared too much, right? Festered on and depressed about. It's not to be any of those things. More just to be like observed. And you'd be surprised, you can learn more about yourself from yourself than you can from other people and your family and things like that. If you just take a moment, right, to be honest with yourself about what are my patterns, what do I do just to do it? What do I do just to fit in? You know, because I think the biggest reason why I was able to, not was able, because this isn't the goal, but the reason why I was kind of able to become that more interesting person, I think, was so that I could get the experience of what it was like to be like that kind of person, to play that kind of role, and actually make memories and stories with friends and make lifelong friends through these memories that we created. So that I wouldn't have to just tell stories about it anymore, and I could be more truthful in my future dealings. But I think that came about because, you know, when you get to college, especially if you move away from your home state, which I did, I moved 12 hours away from my home state. You know, you explore yourself differently when you're in a totally new environment, and so that came with a new level of, for me, luckily, came with a new level of honesty. And I started being more honest about, you know, when I would ask myself, why am I interested in this behavior? Why do I want to exhibit this kind of behavior and that kind of behavior and things like that? So, moving more towards what I'm trying to say here, there's a bit of a point in my life where I decided that I wasn't really gonna participate in lying anymore. But for some reason, as soon as I decided that, not all, but a lot of the friends, and it felt like as the experience was happening, it felt like it was the whole shebang. But a lot of my friends from back in the day would just show back up in my life through Facebook, through, you know, other social media platforms, or hey, I found your number, let's start talking on the phone every now and then and catch up. And I would be forced to talk to these people that I previously had lied to a little bit about my past and things that I've gone through. And we would, you know, talk about situations where those things that I told them might come up, you know, in conversation. And then I would either have to be like, yeah, okay, well, let me sit down and explain to you how that never happened. or instead of, you know, doing the straight up kind of method, something like, yeah, well, I might have exaggerated a little bit on that. And it was the greatest thing because it was freeing. It sort of freed me from having to, one, when you lie, you got to keep track of who you told the lie to a certain extent, how that person that you lied to processes information, because you're gonna, even if you tell the same lie to two different people, you might tell it a little differently to the second person because of how you know that they process information naturally and things. And so, you know, it freed me from being someone that had to keep track of all these different versions of my past, and to just not have to do all of that mental work, which really kind of puts a bit of a strain on you. So if you're out there and you know, just to fit in with a group of great people, you have a tendency to lie or make up or exaggerate, like heavily exaggerate to the point that you might as well just start off with a whole lie about your past, just to fit in with a group of people that you find very interesting. My advice is to not necessarily maybe right there when they're in front of you, but to begin a process of deciding that you're not going to lie anymore, but not for them, and not even so that, you know, well, now I'll take on a persona that I don't lie so that I look even more interesting, because I know them niggas are lying too, right? And so none of that, but just for yourself, being able to free yourself from having to keep track of all these different versions of your past that you've told people, and live from the truth of the present moment. That would be my advice, to release yourself, to free yourself from having to keep track of all the different lies and the way that you told this story to this person versus how you told the same not true story to another person. And, you know, maybe those two people together you guys are all gonna hang out one day, and you know, it might come up which it's fine. And you know, the thing that I noticed is that no one really is angry with you when you tell them, you know, hey, I kind of fabricated that. Or even if you don't tell them, but you know, if they don't bring it up first, and you just bring it up because it's just on your heart that, you know, this person thinks that I was, you know, able to do hella backflips and I beat up, you know, 14-year-olds as a 6-year-old, and it just you know, and it just paints this false picture about yourself, and it's just on your heart that you want to get the truth out about yourself. You know, to free yourself to be able to do that is so powerful, man. I think I lost my train of thought, but it's so powerful to be able to just be honest about your past, and to be honest about your intentions for the future.